So the 15th chapter is entitled Purushottam Yoga, or the Yoga of the Supreme Person. Extraordinary chapter. In the 14th chapter, Krishna describes the three modes, as we've just listened to, that restricts the soul. It controls the soul, like we read in text number 19 of chapter 14. But now he's going to explain the entire material world and how it compares to the spiritual world, and how the fields of activities in the material world are on different levels. So the ultimate purpose of Vedic knowledge is to detach ourselves from this entanglement of the material world and to understand Krishna at the same time. So when we couple those together, we will succeed. If we simply try to detach but not attach, it's going to be very hard. So we attach ourselves to Krishna, and the automatic detachment from material world will take place. One who understands Krishna's supreme identity surrenders onto him and engages in his bhakti, devotional service. Krishna uses an incredible analogy now to show us where we are living. And it creates this sense of detachment within us, especially those who are seeking the absolute truth. And it will also encourage us to find our original home. It's a little bit like, I wonder if you remember, or you've seen this Mr. Bean episode, where he checks into a hotel room. And he then is very, very funny. I remember seeing it years ago. He starts painting the walls, buying new furniture. This is into a hotel room. He refits the kitchen, the bathroom. He actually knocks a wall down, so he's got an ensuite toilet. He's hanging up his family pictures. Now, if we did that, if we went to a hotel and actually did that, we would be considered a lunatic, probably put in a mental institution. This is exactly what we are, however, exactly what we're doing. We're going to live in this world for a few years, maybe 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 at the very most, 80, 90 maybe. But we are thinking that we will always be here, and we're treating this world as our permanent home. But it's just like a hotel room. We're here for a short period of time, and we see others departing. Yudhishthira Maharaj was asked this question. Yudhishthira is one of the Pandavas, and he's Dharamraj, incarnation of Dharamraj. And he was tested by his father, Dharamraj. And the question was, what's the most amazing thing in this world? And Yudhishthira Maharaj's answer was very informative. He said, the most amazing thing in this world is people see around them their relatives, uncles, aunties, mother, father, all dying. But yet they think that they're going to live here forever. So this is the most amazing thing, this most ridiculous thing. So this is where Krishna gives us very, very good instructions. The themes of this chapter are, this material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. Second theme is Krishna gives a glimpse into the spiritual world. And third is that Krishna shows us how he maintains us at every single level. And it's very, very interesting. Finally, he also explains the different types of living entities, those who are fallible, infallible, and himself, Purushottam. So let's read the first theme, the various texts in the first theme. Who would like to read? Any volunteers?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Karuna.
Chitra will read.
Chitra.
Oh, Chitra, very good.
Text 1. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it is said that there is an imperishable banyan tree that has its roots upward and its branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. Text 2. The branches of this tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the three modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses. This tree also has roots going down, and these are bound to the creative actions of human society. Texts 3 and 4. The real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, or where its foundation is. But with determination one must cut down the strongly rooted tree with the weapon of detachment. Therefore one must seek that place from which, having gone, one never returns, and there surrender to that Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom everything began and from whom everything has extended since time immemorial. Text 5. Those who are free from false prestige, illusion, and false association, who understand the eternal, who are done with material lust, who are freed from the dualities of happiness and distress, and who, unbewildered, know how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attain to that eternal kingdom.
Hare Krishna, beautifully read, Chitra. Thank you very much. So summary of those 5 verses. Just as a banyan tree has a reflection in the water. If we try to pick a fruit from the banyan tree, I don't know if banyan trees grow fruits, but they don't. If we try to pick a leaf, well, we actually looking at the reflection, so it wouldn't be possible. So it's a little bit like the reflection of the banyan tree in the water. The real banyan tree is the spiritual world, but we are in its reflection, the material world. They look similar from a distance. The spiritual world, however, is where there is reality and true satisfaction is found. On the other hand, the reflected tree of this material world is very complicated, intricate. It's completely topsy-turvy because the roots are upside down and the branches are going downwards. So bird-like individuals like ourselves, frantically searching for juicy fruits on this reflected tree, but the substance which brings satisfaction seems to be always lacking. Just like when you buy something, you've been looking forward to it for a long time. You buy it, you get it, and you think, is that it? There's got to be more. We'll never find satisfaction in this world because we're looking for happiness in a world where it's always this is just temporary, and we're always looking for more. And we deserve more because we are spiritual living beings. We deserve permanent happiness, but it's not going to be in this temporary world. It needs to be in a different world. And this is what Krishna is explaining. Krishna urges the reader to cut down this illusionary tree with the weapon of detachment and end the futile endeavors for permanent fulfillment in the temporary fantasy world. So the lesson is straightforward, a bit like Mr. Bean's pastime, that we should consider this place as it is, a hotel, rather than our home, because this is a temporary place we're staying. If we try to become too comfortable here, we become too attached to everything around us. It's just a cause for further entanglement in this world and distress, dissatisfaction. This is quite an interesting picture here. Just make sure everybody can see it. Yeah. So this is the spiritual world, the eternal reality, real tree. Very, very beautiful, calm. Gomata with Radha and Krishna and his Sakhis, Sakas, friends, etc. Such a glorious place. Okay. So now across the river Viraja, crossing over this river of desire, we enter into this material world. And this material world, it's composed of so many branches, so many different things. Jumping from one branch to another, just like monkeys trying to enjoy from the branch of economic development to religiosity to sense enjoyment to impious activities to pious activities. So let's just go through some of these aspects. The reflecting medium. This is the reflection of the real world, the spiritual world. It's nourished. This part of the world is nourished by the three modes of material nature. Keeps it going. The roots of this material world grow upwards. It's upside down because it's reflection of the spiritual world. And the topmost is Brahmalok, which is here. Lord Brahma is seated, but he's still in this material world. There's secondary roots on earth, and they grow downwards. They spread all over. There's subsidiary roots, are attachments, aversions, likes, dislikes, piety, impious tendencies develop here. The branches, we jump from up and down. Sometimes we go to the lower, higher planets. We do great pious activities. We enjoy for some time, come back to earth. Then sometimes we do some crazy things and we end up in hellish planets for some time. So these are the branches. The various manifestations, the lower parts of the branches are human beings, animals, horses, cows, dogs, etc. The upper are the demigods, the devatas, those who are pious living entities, higher species. The green leaves are regarded to be the Vedic hymns. But that's where Vedas can actually divert us away from our real spiritual activities, because sometimes we get engrossed in the ritualistic aspects of the Vedas. And the twigs, they're considered to be the sense objects, like the sound, form, touch, etc. The tips of the branches are the senses. We're trying to enjoy, who's trying to enjoy those sense objects. And the fruits are our karma. Whatever we desire, whatever we do, we will incur further karma, which we'll have to eat those fruits. And the living entity's involvement, we jump from one branch to another, trying to taste the fruit, trying to seek happiness. Now, we can't see how far the tree extends or where it ends. That's what Krishna is saying. It's very deep-rooted. Our entanglement in this material world is very, very deep. Unfortunately, we've done so much karma, we've implicated ourselves so much. But as Krishna says, the way we can detach ourselves and cut down this banyan tree of our material life is through this sword of knowledge. Become detached and become attached to Krishna. So this is the first part, the first theme of this Bhagavad Gita chapter 15, that we are living in a reflection of the spiritual world, which is our real home. And this world is a temporary manifestation of the real world, just like a hotel. So let's not be too attached to this world and seek that permanent residency in the real world. So, Madhusudan Babu?
Yeah, this is quite clearly explained here. And with the way we think that the material world is the actual real substance, and there is substance to it, but it actually is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. So whatever there is in the spiritual world, that is found in so there are, like, for example, there's Surabhi cows in the spiritual world, desire fulfilling trees in the spiritual world. There's so many aspects of within the spiritual world, but as you say, it's when it's reflected like this, like a banyan tree, and it does get perverted. So any kind of, so for example, the sense of love, can turn into sense of lust. So it's how perverted it can get, actually, So, and then lust left uncontrolled can actually lead to some really horrific acts by some living entities, and they commit atrocities on, other living entities as well. There's a tendency to lie, cheat, live in illusions, or control, manipulate, pride, fall. We all get tangled up in, some of these acts of life, either makes us feel that we are in shame, there's a lot of grief, there's anger, pride, envy, and we have to transcend and get out of these kind of, modes, and then come to a stage where at least we're in peace and love, and, act of forgiveness as well. So all these different acts, but ultimately it's a love. Love transcends everything, and then the love of Godhead is this topmost. So it's quite a complex kind of creation. But once we understand this, it's just a reflection. Then you don't put real value into it. It's like one of these virtual things, the virtual reality things that you get. Nowadays, you put it on, it's on your eyes, and you're playing sports as well. You're watching movie, you're in the action, everything. And then you suddenly realize, it's just a thing on my head, and you take it out, and suddenly, wow, you're back in the so-called real world that you think we are in. So it's a virtual reality within a virtual reality within a virtual reality. I don't know where we are. I think that there's that film, isn't it? Is that one film where one dream goes into another dream, and it becomes like a reality. I don't know if you've seen that or not, but I forget the name of that film.
It's The Matrix.
No, not The Matrix. It
No?
was another one. Inception, I think.
Okay.
Inception. If you want to watch that, it's like, they take this drug medication to put you to sleep. Then you're in a dream state, and then within that dream, there's another dream. Then within that dream is another dream, and one dream lasts longer than the other one. Is so-called, it said that, like we go to sleep, when we go to sleep, the dream seems so real to us, as if it's taken over life, but it's actually only probably an hour or so of our sleep. And when we wake up, then you think, wow, in that reality, that was only a few minutes, but that seemed like ages to me, like in a dream. And then you wake out of it and you think, oh, that was only a dream. So this film is about a dream within a dream within a dream, but they actually lose the whole plot of what was really real. So anyway, when you get a chance, Phil, we see that. But anyway, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much for sharing that. That's a very good point. Very, very good point. Anybody like to ask any questions? Any comments? Everybody happy that we are living in a hotel room and we need to check out sometime quite quickly?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Priti.
This movie Madhusudanam Prabhu mentioned, I never thought of it like that, like connecting it to this Krishna consciousness. But it's so true. You lose the sense of reality at the end, like what happened actually? So it is a good one to watch.
Yeah. This is a nice point. Very good point. Very nice point. Now, is there anybody else? Any questions or any comments? Otherwise, we can... Oh, we've got 5 minutes. I wonder if we can squeeze in the next bit.
Yeah, Nabi, and that is why, in one of the songs that Lord Chaitanya said, Jeev Jago, Jeev Jago.
Yeah.
I like that song because it is trying to tell us, wake up. And when we think that we are in a dream state, and then we really wake up to the real reality. Yeah.
That's right.
Thank you.
Actually, Madhusudan Prabhu, why don't you read the next batch of texts?
Yeah, text 6. Text 6. That supreme abode of mind is not illuminated by the sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. The living entity in the material world carries his different conception of life from one body to another, as the air carries aromas. Thus, he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another. The living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. The foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this. The endeavoring transcendentalists who are situated in self-realization can see all this clearly. But those whose minds are not developed and who are not situated in the self-realization cannot see what is taking place, though they may try. So that's a summary. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So there's some, this is interesting, interesting 6 verses. Krishna describes a little bit about what the spiritual world looks like. And then he talks about the living entity being part of him, and how in this world, that living entity takes his conception of life from one body to another, like air carries aromas. And according to his conception, and that is effectively his consciousness, which we've talked about previously. He gets different types of ears, eyes, tongue, nose, and sense of touch. So this is interesting how Krishna is explaining how, according to one's conception or consciousness, one gets a different body. So we've covered that, where we talked about, for example, if one has a consciousness of a lion, but you're in a human body, then your next life will be in a lion's body, because that's your consciousness, that's your conception of life. But the lesson that we wanted to take away from this theme, because Krishna gives a glimpse into the spiritual world. He shows how its nature is perfect, it's complete, fully satisfying to all. Once having gone there, one never returns to this world. In this material world, individual hops from one tree to another, acquire various material bodies based on the worldly desires we cultivate throughout our life. And at the time of death, through the subtle workings of reincarnation, one receives a certain type of body which is tailor-made for facilitating our desires. So man proposes, God disposes. And thus, these different life situations give us big lessons, big kicks up the backside, if you like. But we're looking for happiness in the wrong place. To really get the happiness in the right place, we need to look beyond this world into the spiritual world. And that's the lesson from this theme, that our real home is the spiritual world. And that's where we belong, that's where we need to be. And here we've got a little idea, it's text 6, where Krishna talks about why is there no need of any light? Because all the planets are self-luminous, they're shining. Effulgence is called the Brahma Jyoti. All this effulgence comes from the planet of Krishna, Golok Vrindavan. And ultimately it comes from Krishna himself. And 1/4 of the spiritual sky is covered, is the material world. Only 1/4, even less. And the material world has one self-luminous planet. Actually, every universe has one sun planet. When the spiritual world is completely, there's no need for the sun. Although there is the sun is there, but it's not needed. It's there for Krishna's pastimes, yeah. Why is this information of the Supreme Abode given to conditioned souls like us? Because when we hear these wonderful descriptions, we can become captivated, how Krishna is always playing and enjoying, and how his associates are interacting with him in a similar mood that Krishna has. to enhance his enjoyment, Radharani's enjoyment, and also their own enjoyment. If we're too attached to this material world, it's very difficult to cut off this tree. So these descriptions given of the spiritual world are very important to us. And it gives us this paramamama, which is basically understanding that the spiritual world is full of opulence. So the six opulences: knowledge, strength, beauty, wealth, renunciation, and fame. So, and there are many scriptures which which gives us references to the spiritual world. We've gone through those scriptures, the Brahma Samhita being the main one, where Krishna's spiritual abode is described in a little bit of detail. And it's a phenomenal place. So let's remember our real home, which is the spiritual world, and try to really think about that place, meditate on the spiritual world, and not get too bogged down in this hotel room that we're living in, knowing that we have a wonderful place where our mother and father are waiting for us. They've been waiting a long time. We've been in this hotel for a long time. So it's time to pack up and go back home. So any comments, any questions, please?
Well, it sounds like a silly question, but there's no day or night in the spiritual world. No night in the spiritual world, is there?
It does happen because of Leela, but because it's self-illuminous, it doesn't need to. But Krishna, or Yogamaya, who assists Krishna in performing Leela, creates night time so that they can have different pastimes during the night as well. There's a different mood, a different mellow, a different rasa, taste, when there's pastimes in the daytime and pastimes in the nighttime. So there doesn't need to be. There is a sun there, but he's not needed. There is a moon there, he's not needed either. But they do have nights and days, but also they have time. But time isn't controlling. Like here, time controls, time destroys everything, like Krishna says in the 11th chapter. But in the spiritual world, time acts to serve the Lord, not to control the Lord. That's the difference. So here we have the sun, there's a sun in the spiritual world. Here we have day and night, there's day and night in the spiritual world. But there, it's all for the enjoyment of the Supreme Lord. Does that make sense, Naliben?
Oh, yes, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, now thank you very much. Yes.
Navi, I like this concept of time, how time controls in the material world, where time is kind of serving in the spiritual world, and how Krishna controls the time. If Krishna wants to stress the time or contract it or make it seem like 5 minutes is like 5 years, or I mean, it's just difficult for our mind to
comprehend,
kind of comprehend. But in Mahabharata, I don't know if I'm right or not, but when Arjun was waiting for the sunset, to kill that whoever he had declared that he's by sunset he's gonna kill that
Jayadratha,
Jayadratha, I keep Jarasandha and Jayadratha, I get kind of mixed up, but then when the sunset is happening and somehow Krishna just controls that, creates an illusion of like sunset, and the others are all mesmerized by it and then cheat by it, and then Krishna just changes that into something, and so it's the sun. It's not really, but there you are. You got your opportunity to Arjun. I said, just do it.
That's right.
So time is like Krishna controls time, and then we understand how Krishna is a baby, and then next minute he's like a coward boy, and then time is just it's just serving, isn't it, like you say? But he's always like a youthful 16-year-old personality, it never gets old. There's no sense of getting old there, is it? Because birth, death, or it's connected to the material body.
That's right. Even
Yeah.
like when he plays his pastimes here with the Ras Leela, it's one night or a few hours, but actually it's described to be a whole night of Lord Brahma, which is like
Yeah.
billions of years.
It's just, I like that, the concept just boggles your mind,
Yeah, it's inconceivable. That's
Yeah,
true.
it's inconceivable.
Mm.
But that's what it is, Krishna, It's amazing. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Naliben, did you have a further comment?
No, I'm okay. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for those questions today. Thank you for the interaction. Anybody else? Any questions or any comments? Otherwise, we can shift to the Brahma Samhita. I mean, Brahma Samhita, the Nrsimha Kavach. Okay, Karuna, shall we?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.